So y'all can go ahead and call the men in white coats because I know from the title and the thumbnail, this one's probably going to set some people off. In any case, I'm here to discuss Sakura versus the Akatsuki. Honestly, I couldn't tell you why I decided to do this, but while reading a manga panel one day, I thought to myself, dang, is Sakura kind of slept on? So, I mean, what better way to come to a conclusion than by seeing if she can stack up against every member of the Akatsuki? To specify, I'm only talking about the Sakura posed in the thumbnail, which would be War Arc Sakura. I do not think at all that the beginning of Shippuden Sakura and to some extent mid Shippuden Sakura can beat most, if any, Akatsuki members. And conversely, I definitely believe that Boruto era Sakura could actually beat every member of the Akatsuki, with the only possible exception being Obito. So I think War Arc Sakura is a fair representation for a video like this because she's at her best as far as Shippuden goes here in the War Arc. So not to spend too much more time on the intro, let's just get into it. So to start off real quick, let's go with Zetsu. I think the only chance Zetsu has is if he's able to make thousands of clones of himself and attempts to overwhelm her with just sheer numbers. However, even with that, I think it's high dip for Zetsu since with her Byakugo, she can last for a seriously long time and continuously heal herself, and Sakura can punch the ground several times to get rid of numerous Zetsus at one time. Plus there's Katsuyu as well, who can just crush hundreds of them and melt them down with her acid. I mean, heck, Sakura was handling numerous 10-tailed minions like it was nothing, so Zetsu's clones really shouldn't be a problem. Best case, they outlast her if he has thousands and thousands of clones to keep up the attack. Otherwise, Sakura wins low diff. Up next we have Konan, and as strong and as capable as Sakura is now, Konan is unfortunately a bit of a hard counter to her since she can fly. Being that Sakura is basically a melee fighter and Konan is obviously more of a long range fighter, there's little opportunities for Sakura to land a successful blow on Konan. Now that said, I definitely don't think it'll be a quick fight by any means due to Sakura being able to continuously heal herself. Konan's attacks are definitely nothing to scoff at though, because they do deal significant amount of damage, but aside from her paper bomb shenanigans, her other regular paper shuriken and spear attacks can't do much damage to Sakura, at least nothing that she couldn't heal herself from 100 healings. But then Konan could just wrap Sakura in paper and suffocate her if she wanted to, and as I said earlier, what Konan can do is what she did to Obito and mess around with her paper bombs and whatnot and blow her arms off or something, if not most of her body. And even with her Byakugo, she can't fight against Konan in that state. With Katsuyu, she might have range to shoot acid at Konan, and I definitely do think it's a possibility, but I think I got to give it to the odds to Konan and being able to avoid it just because she's an expert at flying. Now, what I will say for Sakura is that with her Byakugo, if she's able to outlast Konan until her chakra runs out, then she might be actually able to take the win. I'm not too sure how long Konan can last in a fight, even though it seemed that the fight with Obito prior to the paper bomb ocean thing, it was kind of short, and it might seem long enough for Konan to win though. Speaking of the paper bomb ocean, if we give her prep time, it's not even a question, Konan wins. So with this one, I think at the end of the day, I'll give it to Konan about 8 out of 10 times. I think she just still a hard counter to Sakura with her being able to fly. Now Kisame is next, and at first I was actually thinking she could perform decent enough against Kisame, and I know that might seem crazy, but just hear me out. If we put Sakura's strength right at or maybe even slightly above Tsunade's strength by the time of the War Arc, and being that Tsunade is stronger than the Raikage and the Raikage and B's strength is comparable, and that would put Sakura's strength at the very least at the Raikage's level. And considering what she was doing to the battlefield in the War Arc, I don't think that's unreasonable. And seeing as how B was able to pretty much tear open Kisame's torso with one attack, I think it's possible Sakura could do relative damage. The problem is that it seems that with Samehada, Kisame has healing capability on par with Sakura's 100 healings. So it might come down to just who has, the most chakra duration, which Kisame clearly towers over Sakura in that aspect. And honestly, I know I haven't even mentioned how Sakura will be overwhelmed if Kisame uses the giant bubble, and it gets even worse if he uses Samehada to fuse with. Sakura is strong, but Kisame will be way more likely to have the edge when it comes to fighting underwater, and just on the fact that Sakura never does, and the fact that she won't be even able to breathe, is definitely going to be a factor. Plus, again, that's not mentioning that Same's mobility and speed will probably more than likely dwarf Sakura's in the water. So as much as I pitched that Sakura could perform decent enough against him, which I do think so, I do think it's possible, at least at the beginning of the fight, Kisame, I think at the end of the day, I think he just takes this about 9 out of 10 times, and I think that's kind of being generous. Next up, we have Deidera, and to be honest, I think this is one of the more quicker ones. Like with Konan, Deidera has the ability to fly and the luxury of firing explosives from the air. While I do think Sakura could handle herself against the explosives, at least in terms of maybe avoiding them or maybe tanking them / healing from them, when it comes to the C1 and C2 variances, that is, she definitely can't do so indefinitely. She 100% goes down to C3 or C4 if it even gets that far. Maybe if she was quick enough to reverse someone with Katsuyu if either one of them are launched, but either way, if either one of them misses, Deidera can just ready up the next one as soon as Sakura gets back. Speaking of Katsuyu, same case as with Konan, she might have range to hit Deidera with her acid, especially if she's able to distract him in any way. It's kind of similar to how Sasuke was able to hit him with the wired shuriken, like by doing so. But again, like with Konan, I feel like I gotta give the odds to Deidera just because he's more of an expert in flying, so he will probably more than likely be able to avoid it. And I don't think Sakura is as fast to stop Deidera from taking flight. I mean, she's definitely not as fast as Heavy Sasuke, so I think that speaks for itself. And she doesn't have any lightning style to counter any of the explosives, so yeah, I think at the end of the day, Deidera's got this 10 out of 10. Going on to Itachi Uchiha. Now, even if I was to give the biggest fairness to Sakura and decided to use the Itachi that was near death in the Sasuke and Itachi fight, Sakura still loses just from strategy alone. Now, don't get me wrong. Even though Sakura doesn't make the best decisions, like when she really thought attacking Ten Tails Madara was a good idea, she isn't stupid. Like, she's actually incredibly smart. Smart enough to pretty much show up every medic ninja that was in the Sand Village and make an antidote to Sasori's poison, to which she was the only one to do. But I mean, come on, it's Itachi. Sakura is definitely not going to be ready for any plan Itachi has in place. Amaterasu will eventually burn her alive even if she uses 100 healings. Like, she might survive for a bit, but eventually it will burn her up. She may have a decent genjutsu experience, or at least that's kind of what we're meant to think anyway, I guess, at least at the beginning of the series, but it probably won't make a difference. I mean, Itachi probably won't even need Tsukuyomi to beat Sakura. Worst case, he uses it real quick to end the fight. Regarding the Susanoo, I think I could probably give her some credit with this and say that she could possibly do decent damage to it, setting aside the Yadamir, of course, but I mean, honestly, getting close to the Susanoo with the Totsuka blade is extremely risky and dangerous, and realistically speaking, the fight probably won't even get that far. Katsuyu is definitely helpful, but in this fight, it kind of provides Itachi with an easy target for Amaterasu, so she's kind of rendered a moot point in this fight. The only thing I could say for Sakura is that if she has knowledge of Itachi's capabilities, and I mean she has to know every single detail, and if she's as careful as she could possibly be, and as quick enough as she could possibly be, she might be able to outlast Itachi in terms of stamina, and maybe take the W if she gets a lucky punch in, but even that, though, is being very, 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 very generous. So, yeah, Itachi takes this one 10 out of 10. Even sick Itachi. Sasori of the Red Sand is up next. Now, if we give her knowledge that she had from their first encounter, she has more of the edge in this fight, especially now that his poison may or may not be an issue. Now, I say it may or may not because that is if we are assuming that she has an antidote ready in advance, which, let's say for a second that we do say that, then yeah, the poison won't be a factor. If we don't, however, and Sasori manages to hit her with either the poison fog or the poison blade, she's done. If we go on the side that she doesn't have the antidote, I think she has way less room for error than she would if she actually had it. And the probability of Sasori being able to nick her with either the poison blade or hit her with the poison fog, I think it's definitely likely. I do want to give Sakura more credit though, because again, if she knows what to look out for, even if she doesn't have an antidote, I feel like for the most part she could handle herself or know what to do and how to avoid it. Now, if we're going on the side of she has an antidote ready and she has intel, realistically the poison will not be a problem. And I know Sasori is lethal, but Sakura at this point can deal with the 100 puppets as easily as she took care of the Ten-Tails minions in the war arc. Honestly, same goes for the third Kazekage and the Iron Saiyan. I mean, it's going to be the same factor. Sasori's real body might be able to do something, but if Sakura's 100 healings is still active by the time it gets to Sasori's real body, or at the very least, the 100 healings runs out by the time it gets to Sasori's real body, I think Sakura's leftover strength should be able to take care of Sasori. Especially if she knows ahead of time that she needs to destroy the heart thing he's got in his chest, the element of surprise won't play a factor this time. I still believe this is a tough fight either way, but I think I'm going to give it to Sakura because she's a little bit more capable fighter this time around. and by this point she just has much more going for her with the intel on her side. So with this one, I'd say 6 or 7 out of 10 in Sakura's favor. However, what I will say is that conversely, if she does not have intel on Sasori at the beginning of the fight, or doesn't have the antidote, I think it's the opposite end. I think Sasori is the one that takes this 6 to 7 out of 10 times. Orochimaru is up next, and look, I know I almost never use Orochimaru in any of these videos, to which I sincerely apologize for. But if you're a channel veteran, you will know my reasons for doing so, and that's because Orochimaru has always been so weird to scale, at least for me. In any case, the only versions of Orochimaru that I think Sakura could beat is the version of him without his arms. And even that's kind of arguable. I mean, he was pretty much handling a four-tailed Naruto, albeit it was a pretty tough fight. Ironically though, I think Orochimaru has more chance of surviving than Sakura does, even with her 100 healing, just because it seems like Orochimaru can never die, which kind of goes off to why I feel like he's really weird to scale. So I think for this one, I think Orochimaru still wins, just not easy. I'd say 7 or 8 out of 10 times. However, if we were to use the Orochimaru from the Konoha Crush arc or the War arc, I think he wins. I think people will be confused of why I think he wins with the Konoha Crush one, but I mean, he does have all his ninjutsu plus the Edo Tensei if he really felt pressure to do so. And even the strongest Sakura is, I don't know, I think Orochimaru still got it in the bag. War arc, Orochimaru is not really even a question. I think he's still superior to Sakura. Still think Sakura does decent enough, but I think Orochimaru just kind of overwhelms her. To be frank though, take the Orochimaru section of this video with a grain of salt, because as I've said, I don't want to sound redundant, but Orochimaru's scaling has not been my forte. So if you think I'm just exaggerating or you think I'm just out of my mind, be sure to let me know, but also be a little bit, generous, because again, Orochimaru's just always been difficult for me to scale. So no excuse, but just want to put that out there. Now we move on to Pain. Yeah. On the real though, she does decent enough considering who she's fighting. She definitely has the potential to beat all of them 1v1 with the exception of the Diva Path. But all of them working together, nah, she'd be overwhelmed. Even with any intel on her side, she really doesn't have a good edge in this fight. Best case for her is if she gets them down to the Diva Path, which as generous as that's going to sound, with the 100 healings, the intel on her side, and if she plays it smart, it's possible, but it definitely does not get past the Diva Path. All it would take from him was a planetary devastation, or again, worst case, a chaotic almighty push, and it's done. And as much slack as I'm giving to Sakura in this fight, I'm still giving this one to Pain 10 out of 10 times. Again, just to reiterate before anybody gets triggered by this, I said best case she gets down to the Diva Path, but it does not get past that. Now we have Hidan, and I actually think this is kind of interesting. If we did this with no intel, I think Hidan could actually win. Realistically, if he's able to scratch her and draw blood, and assuming he's smart enough to do so, he could stab his own heart and pretty much end it there for Sakura. In character though, Hidan might just play around and stab himself in the leg or something to make Sakura suffer. Sakura may or may not at that time pick up what's going on. If she does, she'll likely activate the Byakugo from that point. And honestly, from then on, it's kind of game over. If she goes in with intel though, right off the bat, then it's even more so in her favor. Now, what I will say is that Hidan and Sakura aren't really known to have exceptional taijutsu. Sakura is more known for her overwhelming strength, not so much her being a skilled taijutsu user. Now, don't get me wrong, like that said, I'm not saying she doesn't have any taijutsu skill at all. I mean, she did train under Tsunade, but she's no Rock Lee or Kakashi, and they aren't both known for being speedsters either. And so my point in saying all that is, with intel or with no intel, Hidan might actually have a chance of drawing more blood from Sakura in the fight if she's not careful, to which Hidan could just take out several of Sakura's vital spots. So I do think it's a close fight, because even though Sakura has the strength to completely overwhelm Hidan, because of Hidan's ritual and the fact that she's not too fast, she has far less room for error. But if I had to give this to someone, I think Sakura has the edge as far as intel if we gave that to her. With no intel, I think it could go either way. I think she definitely has way more opportunities to lose in this fight, and Hidan is surprise factor will definitely be a big part in that fight. So with no intel, I'd probably give it 50-50 with maybe a slight edge to Hidan. Up next, we have Kakuzu. Kakuzu's a tricky one. At first, I was thinking he might have the edge in terms of the Diamond Morph Jutsu, which I'm kind of back and forth whether or not Sakura's strength could outright beat Kakuzu's durability with Diamond Morph, because Sakura is ridiculously strong, right? But Kakuzu tanked a point-blank fire attack from Itachi. But I think if Kakuzu decides to fight with the hearts all out in the field, Sakura should be able to handle all of them. Although she would have to have the 100 healings active the entire time, just because those jutsus that Kakuzu was putting out are no joke. Kakashi even stated that they were all high-level ninjutsu. It'll be even tougher if Kakuzu has the Earth-style heart in his body to still use a Diamond Morph. If Sakura felt pressure to do so, she could summon Katsuyu though, and to be frank, I think her acid alone could get rid of any or all of the hearts. Assuming she's fast enough to do so, that is. I know it seems like I'm giving too much credit to Katsuyu and her acid, pretty much because we don't ever really see any feats from her using it. But Orochimaru did think it was strong enough to do at least some damage to him when he was talking to her in the war arc. In any case, honestly, when it comes down to it, all it would take is Sakura destroying the Earth-style mask, and it might be done, because as soon as he loses the Diamond Morph Jutsu, it's over. Sakura's strength can be comparable to Sage Naruto, at least the Sage Naruto that was in the Pain arc, and there's no way Kakuzu can take a hit from Sage Mode Naruto. And it's even more so to the case if she also has Katsuyu on the field and 100 healing still active. I think Kakuzu does win if he decides to go into his weird chakra form though, if only because it seems as though he only goes into that form when he's getting down to like the third heart or lower. So assuming the fact that the fight lasts long enough for that to happen, there's a chance Sakura's 100 healings will be either nearing its end or gone. So with this one, I think it's kind of close. I'd say maybe a 50-50, but with no intel, I think Kakuzu takes it about 6 out of 10. If Sakura does have intel, I think she takes it like 6, maybe even 7 out of 10. I know it's kind of iffy and a cop-out answer, but that's what I got to go with. Last, we have Obito, and yeah, case closed. Like, no disrespect to Sakura, but as strong as she is, Orange Mask Obito is too much. Wood style, Hashirama cells, Kamui, worst case scenario, he has Izanagi, which doesn't really even get that far. So yeah, 11 out of 10, Obito wins. So that's going to do it for the video. I know I may have highballed Sakura in some of these fights, but I was one of those people that was sleeping on Sakura because I'm more or less indifferent towards her as a character, but I think as a combatant, she's very lethal, especially in the war arc. Please let me know if I highballed her too much, or let me know if you think I scaled her fairly. Thank you all for watching all the way to the half. Make sure you comment and subscribe and like the video if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Till the next one, LightningSnow, out.